All right, now
It's
it's good.
recording now. I think those colors are okay. I'm not too concerned about the colors because it is quite far away, but
Mm.
maybe I'll make it slightly bluer. It's too purple. But it generally the closer it is, the more careful you'd have to be with colors because that is when you would actually notice the colors in a actual object. This far away, I just wanted to match the general theme that it has. I think that should do. We can always fix it later. I'm just trying to get the sizing at a decent scale for something that's yeah, that was stupid. Okay, I think that's an okay scale actually. I'll just throw in a mask real quick and
Mm.
fix the edge, which is very weird. It looked okay in the first one I did, so I did something. Um, just using the normal soft brush since I'm not too worried about details. I will just bring some of the tree back in. And I just noticed there are these little messy portion over here. I think that must be from I missed some portions when extracting last time,
Mm.
but we can just clean them up now. In fact, I'm tempted to be a bit destructive. I'll just use the eraser. I don't ever want to bring these back. So even though just the previous one I gave an entire thing on why not use the eraser, but I don't think I'll ever be tempted to bring these lines
Mm.
back. So just erase them. There you go. Again, I'm not too worried with how it looks because so far away that you really can't see them. So it's not that big of an issue. I will make it slightly smaller. Actually, I won't make it smaller, just moving it did it. Yeah, it was just in the wrong position. I don't know why it's snapping. Let's just nudge it. There you go. You can use your arrow keys to nudge it when the move tool tries snapping it here and then makes a mess. Okay, I'm a bit confused about what I did next. So I'm just gonna cheat and go back to the. Oh right, yes, the
Yeah.
lighting. Okay. So I'm gonna have to adjust the lighting on this tree. I'm not sure if you noticed, but on the original picture, the lighting was
Mm.
from the right, and that's why we can see there's the little brighter sections on the right of the tree. But on
Mm.
this one, I've got the more brighter portions on the left because that's what I want to be like the sunset clouds coming in. So I'm
Okay.
gonna just throw in a layer and clip it, and then I'm gonna choose a bright purplish, I think, or orangish would do just to get the sunset type of thing. And I'm gonna make it to color dodge, the blending mode, and just lightly brush it over so I can bring in the light from the other side instead.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I used to never do initially when I started doing composites, and I'd always
Mm.
wonder why it looked very odd before I realized that it's the lighting, and it's very easy to forget this step or make it inconsistent with the rest of the picture, and it really does affect how the overall look of the picture if there's one element with the light coming in the wrong way. Sometimes we don't even consciously pay attention to these details, but like they feel wrong and it affects the entire feel of the image. Oh, I'm erasing it instead. Now I just turn my brush's opacity low so that I can add a little bit of gradient to the color without it being so strong. I don't think it actually did reduce my opacity a whole lot. Now, because this is very far away, I'm not fixing the fact that there is a lighter portion on the shadow side. And also because there is like brightness on the other side, it's not completely dark. But if this
Mm.
was closer or if I was shooting for a more realistic look, then I would fix that.
Mm.
I just did not, it's so far away that it does not affect much.
Yeah.
In fact, even the lighting does not affect much, but if you look carefully, there's a subtle difference that just makes it blend in a bit better.
Yeah.
In fact, I will fix the shadow side. Let's see what it looks like. Since we're not like short in time or anything. I'm choosing a bluish color for the shadow, and I'll just try fixing it and see what happens. Yeah, let's just make it lighter. Yeah, there you go. I think it will actually look better this way. So I'm just going over the general side that should be facing away from the shadow. I'm not paying too much attention to the realism of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a part where you can put in as much as you want, and the results can't really get worse. It's just the
Mm.
more effort you put in, the better it will get. So
Mm.
because it's so far away, I'm not paying too much attention. But I think it did improve it a little bit, adding the shadow. It's
Mm.
very hard to see the lighting anyway, so I just let it go. And I just want to do. I just want to darken this side a little bit more. Last time I had darkened it a little bit, but yeah, that's a bit better. I just darkened the right area a little bit more.
Mm.
And one more thing I want to do is, oh, whoops. Yeah, I'm just going to fix the Milky Way here. So I'm making a duplicate of this layer and I'm gonna rotate it so that the Milky Way is going up here, and in the other Milky Ways that I added on the top, it is curving downward.
Yeah.
So it's a bit distracting. I'm just gonna mask it. I'm actually gonna fill the entire thing, then just using a soft brush, carefully bring in the Milky Way, just so that I can change its direction a little bit.
Mm.
Oh, my opacity is all the way low, that's why it's giving issues. Okay, there it is. Remember I said that there were two star trails coming in.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
There it is, yeah. So I am just gonna mask out this one, I think. Which is the original one? Yeah, that's the original one. So I'm gonna leave that one be. There you go. And then I'm just gonna fix the fact that the colors are messing up here. Okay, and then I'm gonna make another copy actually of this one. And I'm just gonna take the thing and rotate it all together.
All right.
Yeah. And then I'm just gonna mask the edges so that it looks, I mean, a bit better than whatever this is. I don't really need adjustable opacity for this one, so. There we go. So it looks very ugly right now, but this just needs some more fine tuning. And if I turn these back on, there you go. It's better now. So the only change that really makes is that if I just switch back to before I did that all, it's that the curve of the Milky Way beneath is slightly distracting. But if you
Mm,
do it like this, then there's no branch sticking out. So it's just whatever we added on top is a bit more uniform.
yeah.
And then okay, let's add the clouds. I think I added a second layer of cloud as well. What happens if we change? Oh, that's the wrong. This is the cloud layer that I did already add in the first time. I'm just adjusting it
Mhm.
now. And I'm trying to figure out why the stars are still showing through despite, oh, my opacity is low. There you go. Okay, and then I'm just going to adjustment for the levels and darkening it a bit. Just a touch. And I'll smooth out this edge a little more. There you go, that looks much nicer.
Mm.
I'm not sure what happened there, but anyway, it looks fine now. What's that? That's the tree. Okay, let's be good and name my layers. I don't always
Okay.
name them, but this is confusing now. Rotated. Rotated 2. It's a bit hard to deal with layer 4 and layer 4 copy again and again.
Mm.
Clouds, clouds above. Let's just throw these in a group. And these are galaxies.
Yeah.
And that's the tree. There you go, it's better. Okay, there's I see an edge over here. I don't know whose edge it is. Yep, it's this one's. Okay, there's a bit of that square edge showing in through here, so there you go, that's better. And now I will add in, let's do, okay, let's bring in the galaxies that are coming down to the tree, I guess. I'm just
Mhm.
not sure which ones I used for it, so let me check that. Okay, I think I used this one. I was using this one. So I'm just gonna crop the ground out from here. And actually, I'm also gonna crop out the sides just a little bit. And then I'm gonna take it to the thing. Actually, let's rotate it this way so I get the light one over here. And then slightly downward because this is I basically want to build up the curve that is coming all the way down to meet the tree. So I am going to warp to this, but I want to angle it such that it is easier to manipulate a bit more.
Yeah.
So I just need to build that curve up a bit gradually because the Milky Way does not normally stoop down to touch random trees. So it is very hard to find a picture which does most of the job.
Yeah.
I'm taking away a lot of it that is going over the section where I already have additional Milky Ways there
Yeah.
because I don't want to build up unrealistic amount of stars in the same place.
Mm.
And I'm just lowering the opacity a bit to blend it better. Opacity of my brush.
Yeah.
So when I'm changing the opacity of my brush on the layer mask, it just shows in as shades of gray. And if you have opacity 100%, then obviously whatever color you have selected. So it's easier
Yeah.
than just doing the, I think I mentioned that already. And then I'm just going to change the blending mode. Yeah, soft light looks much nicer. If I wanted a bit more extreme, I could go for overlay, but that's making it very blue. I'm gonna leave it with soft light.
Are you using some shortcut to change the blending mode?
No, I just go to this menu in the layers panel,
All right.
and then I just go from here.
Okay.
So I do just scroll randomly until I find effects I like, but generally I have an idea that for this kind of thing, this section generally works well between overlay, soft light, and hard light. You can get a good effect between the darks and lights.
Okay.
I'm just gonna darken it slightly from this end and build it a bit more from that end. Okay, and then I'm gonna disable the layer mask for a second and press Ctrl T and then right click and warp and
Okay.
just stretch it into a slightly more defined curve.
Yeah.
So you can see the flow a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Since I have my mask and the layer linked, the mask transformed itself as well. So it will match the layer in the transformation. Yeah, so it is sort of subtle, but it is building toward that. I will just move it slightly down. And then I'm gonna bring this one in again.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I will use this one. Let me just open. Yeah, I'll select the same one that I'm using as a base for this picture, but only this time I'm gonna use the lasso tool and increase the feather a little bit and just select this galaxy part. So I don't need to bring in the entire picture. I can just drag it out into here. And it edit. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I dragged into the one I've already finished. Oops. There you go. Okay, Control T and flip horizontal because I want the light side here and it also rotates it on its own. So, and then I'm just gonna scale it down. And I think here is a good place to put it. And then Control T and warp. So I'm using a combination of these drag handles on the side and the just clicking and dragging the middle portion. The drag handles at the side are just the general outline. So if you do not move those and just drag this all the way, it will smush it up at the top. But
Yeah.
dragging these will curve the outline as well. Neither of which I want to do, but and I think this one overlay will be fine because I want it a bit more strongly defined. And then I'm gonna put the mask in and just fix the edges. So on the previous one, I did the mask first and the blending mode later. But this time I'm doing the blending mode first because it is making quite a significant change to... Oh, my opacity is lower. That's why it's not working. Yeah, now I think... Yeah, I think I can make it a bit more visible from this side, closer to the tree where I've got the stronger light, and I can fade it out from the back a bit. Oh, goodness. Yeah. And then I'm going to duplicate this one real quick and move it over the tree a bit more. And then I'm just going to adjust the mask. So I'm going to mask over the area where the bottom one was and just keep it more strongly around the tree. And it can go a little bit more there. Yeah. I'm keeping really strong around the tree and dark around because that is like where the light is sort of coming down. So it makes it easier when you're doing your final lighting adjustments if you already have most of it in place beforehand.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to bring my brush's opacity down and just smoothen those edges a bit, make the gradient a little softer. I'm actually wondering if soft light will work for this instead. Okay, so I like the overlay look, but I will soften this. portion a bit more where it's intersecting with the one beneath it. I think that's too colorful for what I'm looking for. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so now we've got most of the galaxies coming down to the tree part. So let's move to adding the clouds in. Let me just save this real quick. And I will close these two since I do not need them, and that. And then I will pull up the clouds, this entire curve that's coming down with the flying rays leading it in.
Mm.
I used a few different clouds for this one. Let's grab this one initially. So selecting a cloud is quite difficult for extracting because there's so many soft, fluffy edges, and getting them all in is quite difficult. And this one does not have very good contrast either. If you make it in black and white, you can see that this edge between the cloud and the background are very similar in tone. So it's hard for auto select to work as well. So for this one, I'm using the quick select tool. Remember last time I'd used the select and then color range?
Mhm.
But for this one, for the general shape, I'm using color range. I'm using I think it's the quick selection tool. Yeah, quick selection tool. Because this one uses the color as well, the like color from between red, green, blue, whereas the select and color range uses black and white tones only. So this one is a
Alright.
bit more accurate in areas where your black and whites are quite similar. Once I've got a general outline, I'm going to select and mask and the refine edge brush, the same one we used last time to select the tree branches. And you can see it does a pretty good job of bringing in both the fluffy edges and the transparency at the edges.
Yeah.
So just have to be careful not to bring it too much into the area where it's more solid, because then that would give you a very blurry outline. Yeah, that's too much. So I just go over with the refined edge in places where it looks like it could be a bit smoother and less abrupt. Okay, I think that's not that bad. It looks okay. And then I'm gonna click on the decontaminate colors, so it gets rid of the bluish edges. Yeah, it's cleaning up the edges. Oh goodness, I just pressed off. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna output to new layer with layer mask. And let me just throw in a very dark layer behind it so we can see the edges. Yeah, that looks okay. So I'm making 2 copies and I'm gonna apply the layer mask on both of them. Oops. And then I'm gonna merge both of them, because I found that when working with stuff with such wispy edges, merging them cleans the edges up a bit. So you've got 2 stacked, it sort of gets rid of these little transparent areas where it should be solid. And it's a bit of a workaround to manually selecting it, but I mean, it works. So I'm not gonna spend time manually fixing it when I can just stack 2 automatically done copies.
Mm.
And I think I should flip this one around. So flip horizontal. And I want this to sort of be like a vague transition between the clouds. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to give these clouds in the back here a bit more shape, so that when they blend into these ones that are coming here, which are very distinct in their shape, then it shouldn't be abrupt, like you've got very flat, thin clouds, and then suddenly you've got very volumetric clouds. So I'm just trying to make these build up the shape here a bit, so that it blends in a nicer way. And I'm just going to change the blending mode now into soft light, so that gets rid of the abruptness. And then just fade out the edges a bit. So you can see it's just a really subtle, you can hardly see where the cloud was, but it just helps build the transition a little more. I'll actually just warp it a little bit and give it a bit more push upward and down. So I'm not worried too much about the fact that we can see a ghostly pinkish bluish cloud shape here, because the row of clouds will be coming out from here, so it will get covered, which I will open up now. These were difficult clouds to extract, but they had a really pleasing shape that was looking as if it would work very well with my initial idea of the manta rays sort of leading the clouds in. So I chose this one purely based off of the shape aesthetic and not how easy it was to extract. So this is a little difficult to extract because not only are the shades of black and white fairly similar to each other, but it's also the colors are very similar. Why is it saying my background layer is red? I know it's red. I don't know what went wrong. Let's just open that one up again. That's better. So I'm using quick select for this one as well. And I'm just setting big and getting all the dark shape in, which is easy to select. And then that gives me room to fine tune with a smaller quick select around the edges, which is the main difficult part. And I go over a lot of these with the refine edge afterwards. So I'm just trying to get a general shape down.
Yeah.
And there's a patch of sky in there, but I think I'll have to manually fix that. Yeah, sometimes quick select does that. Okay, I'll just subtract this part. Quick select is a little slow because it takes time to process off your colors and decide whether this is a good edge to select around or no. But it does do a good job of getting the general shapes in. So it's, I think, worth the slight slowness.
Yeah.
This was a difficult area because they're very similar in color.
Yeah.
And in fact, I will leave that section off for now. I'll do it manually afterward. So this was the worst, this little wispy triangle here, but it was the shape that I really liked. So I'm gonna try and get it in here. To quickly switch between adding to your selection and removing, you can press Alt to remove, and then when you let go of Alt, then it will add.
Okay.
That's how I'm switching between them. I don't know if I mentioned that or no. Yeah, so I'll leave it off here and go into select and mask so I can use refine edge. Before using refine edge, so I'm just gonna go to a brush, this brush tool down here, and that is any of your normal brushes will serve as selection brushes. So I'm setting it soft and I'm just gonna bring in some of the cloud at the corner here, which was not coming in. And over here. A little bit of a softer edge makes it easier to use refine edge brush on it. And now I'm just gonna go in with refine edge and fix up these edges. And I'll zoom out because it looks very ugly this close. Okay, I'm just gonna go to the brush real quick and remove some of this fuzziness here. And then maybe refine edge will do a better job at it. Refine edge does need well-defined edges before it can refine them. So if you do not have very clear selection edges present, then it can mess up a bit. Mostly it does a good job of cleaning the edges up. So here's really where I was pushing refine edge to its limits, is getting all these little poofy cloud balls into it. But it does okay, so. I'm just gonna try and get all of these. If I that overshot that one. You have to sacrifice some of the really fine details in the edges because that is just beyond the extracting capability. But there is like technically a workaround is you can bring in the entire photo into your composite and then change the blending modes until you can peel away all the faint edges. But since I'm looking more for a general shape here, I'm not too concerned about losing the fluffy details. And I'm just gonna clean up these edges with a sky in between. And this little chunk over here with sky. And I think that is okay selection. It might not be the cleanest, but I will not have a very high level of detail once I bring it in there anyway. So I'm just gonna decontaminate colors and okay. Well, let me just put in a dark background behind so I can make sure there are no. Yeah, it looks okay. It's not the cleanest. If I was looking for a more realistic thing, I would spend more time fixing all of those edges, but for my purposes, it's okay.
Mm.
So just the two copies again.
Yeah.
Apply both the layer masks and then merge them. There you go. And let's take it into here. Make it smaller. And I'm just trying to find. Yeah, I did mask out a lot of this one because the main cloud body does not work as much in here as I was hoping it would. But first, let us change the blending mode and see what we can do. And actually I didn't have this one blended, I don't think so. Hang on, I just want to check, are my clouds behind the galaxies? I think I've got clouds behind the galaxies. Yeah, I've got the clouds behind. That makes a lot more sense actually. Let's do that. Let's grab both the clouds and push them behind. Yeah, let's just mask out this big cloud body. It's just not working here.
Mm.
There you go, it's better. I mostly wanted this for like these leading lines or triangles of cloud or whatever that work very well with the concept of flying rays, pulling them out. But the rest of the clouds do not work as well. And I'm gonna warp it this time in the inverse. I want this section to sort of be swooping in and not be coming in really flat. So I bent everything else the other way, but the clouds I'm gonna bring them down instead of up. And I'm actually gonna remove this entire section as well. I'm just gonna bring it in slightly over here. And I'm gonna bring in that triangular shape in the section I'm removing manually with the mask. So I can keep the good leading shape without distracting cloud. Okay, I think that does not look that bad, but it does look very out of place. But I will actually warp this one more time. It's a bit too down. I think that looks better. And then I'm gonna go to image, adjustments, color balance, and make it a lot more orange. I'm not sure that's actually helping it a bit. I just want to blend the colors a bit better, but that does not seem to be making much of an improvement. Yeah, I think this one looks better. There you go. And we'll bring the opacity down a little bit. Actually, I'll leave the main opacity up and use the mask instead so I can adjust. So I'm going to drop my brush's opacity to 25% and then just sort of fade out this area a little bit. So it's like gradually becoming stronger closer to this section. And then I just fix the edge which came back in. I'll amp up the opacity again for the edge. I don't want to have any edges even. That's like a great way to destroy a composite. Yeah, I think that doesn't look half bad. It's okay. And I will actually copy the cloud which I had initially over the one that was beneath it. Bring it up, drop its, just delete the mask. I don't want, oh. I was supposed to be naming my layers, but I don't think I did a very good job at that. Oh well. Let's flip this guy around. And rotate him downward a bit. I just want to bring some of this nice fluffy part into this curve of the cloud here. So I actually will not rotate it, but I will warp it so it follows the curve a bit better. Yeah, I don't want to warp that section. Let's just leave it as is, and I will clip it to the layer beneath. So clipping mask is that whatever is in the layer beneath is where the layer above will only show. So if I undo the clipping mask, I've got this entire cloud over here. But when I do the clipping mask, it will now only show in the section where this triangular lines of cloud are. So that way I can use it just for the texture without it changing the shape of my clouds beneath, because I don't want to mess with the shape anymore. I will just do the color balancing though. It should be matching with the clouds beneath. So a bit more orangish. And I'm going to push for a slightly stronger orange. There you go. And then I'm going to warp it again and just try and get this little section to fit in a bit better. There you go. I like the texture. So this I'm using just for the texture. And I'm not too concerned with the shape because I have it clipped onto the layer beneath. I will mask out the texture from here though, because I do not want that to draw as much attention. It's just for some soft texturing. And then you can change the blending mode, which I will do now to soft light, I think is better. Yep. So that way I'm even keeping some of the texture which I like in the original, which is like this sort of flowing ridges which are coming to the point. But I can have some of the more depth of the layer above, which changing the blending mode achieves. Yeah, I've got a slightly different shape to what I had in the original, but I'm not particularly minding that. I think it's okay. I would just make this guy a little longer, but not proportionally. Just like that. Actually, I'll do both of them simultaneously so I don't lose my alignment. There you go. It looks a bit like a dragon.
A bit, yeah.
Oops. I'll have to do that again. I clicked out. And I'm actually gonna warp it slightly more. I cannot warp two at the same time. Maybe I just rotate it slightly. I just want to get slightly more of an exaggerated curve. I really like this dragonish look it's giving off now. I'm going to copy the cloud layer one more time, but I'm gonna actually just bring it in from where I selected it so it's not warped. And Control T, flip horizontal, and then I'm gonna warp it slightly like this. And this I'm bringing in just to build up some more of the texture over here, because this area is still looking flat. So I just want to have a bit of a more blended version over here. I just want the transition between these thin flat clouds and the fluffy ones I've got over here to look a bit more gradual. It looks very abrupt now. And then I'm gonna change. Yeah, soft light is good for this gradual buildup of texture. I found I like the effect it gives, and it's very, well, soft. It's not very harsh. I think this is okay. It's just giving that slight buildup over here, which I like. Yeah, I think that's okay for the most part. I think there were some adjustments I did more to it, but let's just see what else I've got going over here. I think I did color adjustments non-destructively in this version. Yeah, okay, I think it's okay. I didn't do anything much differently in here. The shape is a bit different and the colors are more on, I think they look better in this slightly reddish hue than they did in the orange one in the original. So I'm not gonna change that too much. And let's bring in the mentaries now. And then I can do final color and lighting adjustments afterwards. I think we should be able to finish this within the session. Let me just close the other stuff and open up the rays. For the mentaries, I used 2 or 3 different pictures and just reused the same rays again and again in different angles because selecting them is very difficult and I don't have the patience to do it again and again. So let's start with these ones, which are the simplest, I think. So using the quick selection tool, I can get a general shape, but selecting their tails is ridiculously difficult because they're so thin. And so for that, I'm going to try using the color range. It is really difficult to do the tails. Let's do that. I've got some tail coming in. Let's increase the fuzziness. So the fuzziness is how picky it is with its colors. Yeah, I think this is doing a good job actually of getting most of my... Yeah, that ruined it. This tail. Okay, let's get this selected for now. And then I can do the tail in a second round. So I'm going to select in masked and using just a brush to select the portion of the fins which is made very fuzzy and reddish. Because it's slightly different in color range. I'm using a soft brush for this because I don't want the edges to be too hard because it is going to be in the distance and hard edges do not normally work in the distance. And I would have masked them and made them softer anyway. So I might as well select it soft. It makes my life easier. You can see there's a very subtle transparency to the selection here because as I'm painting over, the red is receding and it's hard to notice it, but I learned this the hard way the first time when I did not reselect this section and it came out all fuzzy in the composite. So I'm going to remember to select it this time. The fins also it struggles to select a little bit because they're in the shadow versus the rest of it is in the light and it kind of messes that part up. And for this board, you did chop this entire back off, so I have to use. You can also use the quick selection brush within select and mask, which is handy for these big selections because I don't have to manually paint it over. Let me try one last time. Quick select and do the tail, which was a nightmare. Yeah, no, mine is not doing the tail very well at all. The colors around the tail area are kind of funny, and it does not do very good at picking them out. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to output this to a layer mask and I'm not going to decontaminate the colors on this one. So then I can disable the layer mask and use select color range and pick up the tails separately. Actually, I don't know what it's selected, but judging by the preview, it has done a good job of getting the tails in. So I'm just gonna export it. Yeah, I don't know how that worked, but did okay. So, and I'm just gonna go manually in select and mask and deselect the rest of the body, which I already have in the, previous selection, so I don't mess that one up. So I'm using quick select, and this time I'm just deselecting their body. Oops, that is selecting because I already did that one in the previous. So this is just for the tails. Yeah, I just deselected everything. So time to shift to the brush. Quick selection has this problem that it switches out to the, what can I say? It switches out to sections even opposite the entire picture just to when it finds a similar color, and that can be quite irritating. So I you can always fix that though with the with using the brush itself in select and mask. And I throw in a black background for this purpose, is that it selected a lot of fuzzy blue on the edges. So on the mask, I'm just gonna use my paintbrush with dark black, no opacity, no nothing, and just fix that. I'm not worried about accidentally erasing portions of the rays because they're very far away. Right, closer to the tails though, I'm gonna make the brush hard. Not fully hard, just like 87ish, 80%ish is fine, I think. And I'm gonna refine these dots over here. I'm using a harder brush because with a softer brush, you're more prone to accidentally bleeding into the part that you want selected, which is easier to not do with the hard brush. Then I'm gonna go into select and mask and just check decontaminate colors and export it again, so I get the decontaminated version. Actually, I don't think that did anything because I was on the wrong layer. Yeah, so I'm instead just gonna select. I see a fuzzy spot, but I cannot. There it is, I found it. There's a fuzzy spot of blue over here. It's a bit hard to see, but I see it at a certain angle. Let's do this instead. Alt click, and there's really a lot of muddiness over here. So let's just clean it out. I'm gonna go carefully around the manta ray because in this mode it's hard to tell when is actually the ray and when is the selection, and I don't want to accidentally deselect it. So I just go carefully around here. To access this black and white mask mode, you just alt click on the layer mask and it will load it up in black and white, which is handy for seeing these very subtle things where the color otherwise masks the difference. I think that's good enough. And then you can just alt click on it again and it will open the rest of it. So I'm going to select and mask, and this time just going to check decontaminate colors and output to a new layer with a layer mask. And then do the double duplicate thing. I can delete that and I can delete the black one. So I'm going to apply masks. And merge layers. And let's take these two over into the composite now. And this is, I think, the biggest example of the color changes you have to do with pictures because they look horribly out of place and they're very blue. I don't know why the picture frame is showing so big. I assume there is stuff on the outside. Let's just grab the eraser tool and run a big one around the side. So if there's any fuzziness, it gets taken care of. Nope. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, I see the fuzziness now. Okay, I see fuzziness in this angle. I'm just gonna do it with the eraser tool because I know it's destructive, but there you go, it's a bit better. So I'm pushing them to the distance, the size that I want them to be first. And then I'll go to adjustments, color balance, and fix the fact that they're so blue. So I'm pushing for pinks, reds, and yellows to really, I'm going quite far with these to really blend them in with the background colors because they're incredibly blue from being underwater, obviously. And you can see the difference by checking the preview. There's before and then there's after the color balances. I probably should do these in a less destructive manner, but oh well. Okay, and then we're gonna mask it. I want them to look as though they're flying in and out through the clouds. And currently they look like they're all ahead of both ahead of the clouds. So I'm just gonna keep my opacity to 50% and just fade it out in certain areas. So it looks like in fact, I'll make them smaller too. Yep, that's a good placement. So that they're kind of looking like they're emerging from the clouds. That's too much. It looks like he's just chopped off and mutilated, but yeah, this one looks very bad. There we go. That looks better. I'm just gonna lighten this, clarify this section a little bit. It's too faded. Okay, I'll play around with the placements after I've got most of them in. So we got this one in. Let's grab let's grab this top one, I think. It is at an angle which is workable with our actually no, let's grab the bottom one because this one is going up. And from our camera point of view, we should not be seeing it going up. So let's try for this one instead. In the original, I did have the one going up, but I had to warp it so much to make it look believable. I think this one would be a better choice. And there's the Inferno tail again. I don't know if quick select will work for this one because I never tried selecting this one before. And I think it should be able to. Let's give it a go. Yeah, let's give it a go. And then I'll go into select and mask and refine the edge and see if it can fix it. There you go. That's an easier selection too. So I'm not a fan of using refine edge on stuff which you do not have transparency in themselves because it introduces transparency in places where they shouldn't be. But sometimes it does okay. There is a lot of contrast in this one, so I'm hoping it will not have that big of a difficulty in deciding what needs transparency and what doesn't. There you go. That was a much easier selection. This one took me ages to do it. Let's decontaminate colors. Decontaminate colors is not much useful when everything's so blue anyway, but it does help a little bit with getting rid of the blue fringes. And we'll merge these two. And in they go. In it goes, more like. Yeah, this is still a difficult angle to work with because coming toward, so I need to do some warping. Let's smoosh its wings down. Make it seem like you could be playing leapfrog or something. Let's undo that one. Yeah, let's try. Yeah, that looks better. If its wings are up, that means it was just bending weird and not actually coming towards us. And then color adjustments. Actually, let's make it small first so I can see it in context before doing color adjustments. Since it's skipping upward, I want to keep it a bit behind the others, like it's sort of having a bit more fun than the others and not leading them forward. This one's colors are a bit weird. Let's bring the shadows. Okay, let's try with this adjustment instead. I'm going to try using the hue saturation color adjustment instead as a base, and then I can use color balance to fix it because colors are quite far from. Yeah, I think this will be a better base to work. But this is very destructive, so I'm going to use adjustment layers. So let's do that, and then let's put in a color balance on top of it and see where I can take it. Yeah, it's not quite working. Okay, let's try one more thing. I have not fixed the colors of this particular one before, so I'm not quite sure what would be working and what not. Let's try make it a little lighter by destructively using the levels adjustment. And then let's try the color balance. If it fails, I'll just Control Z out of it. Yeah, I think that's better. That's basically what all of these color adjustments just are, is hit and miss until you can get it as close as possible towards your origin. There's really no fixed way of making colors work. I assume that if you were using photos which you had taken yourself, you could make sure that you've got originally a set which is working together with themselves with the other photos before going for the composite. But since I'm using stock photos, so there's very little room for having cohesive colors beforehand. I just want to lightly fade out its colors a little bit. I will reduce the opacity of it as a whole. It's too up there.
Mm.
And then I can just use the layer mouse to bring it in a bit, sharpen it. Okay, its colors are still not looking very blended. Let's try this real quick. I'm gonna throw in a solid color layer and color pick something around here and just clip it to the ray. Yeah, this works a bit. It helps make it a bit more blended. I'm just gonna adjust its colors now. There you go. It looks a lot better now. So this is without the solid color adjustment. And this is with, so it takes away a good deal of the blue edge, and then I'll just reduce the opacity a bit. Actually, instead of reducing the opacity, I'll throw in a mask and fade it out just slightly from certain places and leave it around the edges of his wings and stuff where you'd have subsurface scattering. Not wings, I mean they're flappers or whatever, but yeah, I think that solves the problem a good deal. Okay, let's grab some more rays, and this time, yeah, this is the last one that I selected, after which I just duplicated the ones I already had. So I'm just gonna bring this one in. And I'm bringing this one in mostly because it had some very challenging colors as well, but this time I knew how to fix them because I did it the first time. So I just want to show how I did that. You can see it has very strong contrast. The light on top of its body is very strong, and that will not fit in with the light that we have in our composite because it is more faded and like evening sunsetish. So I will have to adjust that. I'm actually going to try doing the same thing I did for in the Paris one, is use refine edge to get the tail neat and tidy. Let's use a big refine edge. There you go. Nice job, refine edge. Yeah, it's part of it. I don't want to remove that. Yeah, it did much better than I expected to. And then decontaminate colors. And okay. Then we do the double duplicate. Apply layer mask. And merge. There you go. I like this one's pose is very I don't know, it looks very confident. I don't know if Mentaris actually do confidence like that, but it looks very confident and determinedly leading forward. And so I put him at the front. I'm gonna make it slightly bigger and then I can downscale afterwards after I do color adjustments. So I pushed strong yellows as pinks and then just a little bit of red because the red does darken it a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to push the pinks a lot and then the shadows, make them pinker, slightly reddish in the shadows, and lots of highlights must be warmed. And then I'm gonna make it smaller. No, zoom in as well so I can see them in relative scale. You can always move around their placements later, so I'm not too concerned about the placement as much as I'm about the scale. Because if I once make it down and it compresses it, and then if I want to upscale it again, it often reduces quality quite a bit and makes it grainy. So rather keep it a bit bigger and downscale later than downscaling a lot and then having to upscale it again, which can mess with the quality. And then I'm just using a soft brush with low opacity, and I'm just fading the entire thing out a little bit. He is very big, but I can fix that later. Why? I don't know why my hardness, it's coming out very hard edged. I think that's better. I may have been using the wrong brush. I want soft edges. That's better. So now I'm just blurring out more the fin that's in the back and keeping the fin that's in the front a bit sharper. And that's like a subtle depth adding. It's very hard to notice from the distance that these guys are at, but all of these subtle things are that what our brain picks up and notices that this looks off or this looks good. And I think that working paying attention to these is probably will pay off at some point. I don't know if it actually does, but I think it does. Oops. I'm gonna make him smaller. Here you go. So its colors are still slightly not fitting, but I'm gonna fix them. I think I can fix those a little later. I don't want to scale it. Okay, there is quite a bit gap between the current 3 that I added and this 4th, and that is because I'm adding more in just now. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna use the Lasso Tool, and this time with 0 feather. I don't want the selection to be soft. Actually, let's do this instead. Let's not select it. Let's duplicate this entire layer and drag it over here-ish so I can see both of them clearly. And then using an eraser, I am just going to get rid of this guy. Eraser full opacity, and I'm going to remove this one. So I just want one of them, and it's easier than selecting it again. Okay, I'm just gonna make the eraser hard so I can remove it still without accidentally removing it. Here you go. I'm seeing a bluish tinge here. I'm just gonna try and I think that's in the background. There you go. Now having two identical ones right next to each other is probably the worst thing ever. I'm gonna delete this layer mask and then warp it. And warping it works surprisingly well because they're such a big distance. If you're any closer, you'd probably not want to do that because you can tell quite clearly when it has been warped. Its entire face looks odd and mushed up. But because it's so far away, I'm not too concerned. You really can't tell what its face looks like from there. And then this time I'm going to use the lasso tool and just select its fin at the back and independently warp that so that it is more ahead where it should be in this phase of the flight, or well, if it was flight, that is. Because using the warp tool does mess that up in the background because it's obviously not picking up depth properly. And it leaves a bit of a weird edge, but I'm not concerned about that because you can't see it from so far away. Putting things in the background is very forgiving as a whole, and that's why I like doing it. Let's put this here. It still looks a bit odd, but I actually want to see if I can get rid of such a big bounding box. There's something up here. So I'm using an eraser and just trying to get rid of it. It's still there. Never mind. Let me just try warping this a little more and exaggerate the curve a little bit. It still looks too similar to the other one. Yeah, I think this looks better. It looks more like it's going up and looks very little like the previous one. I'm gonna just give it a slight color adjustment, slightly more yellowish, orangish. Yeah, I think that looks nice. And then I'm just gonna use a soft brush and mask it out a little bit into softness. So the further away things are, they have very soft edges. So I'm just trying to get the edges quite soft and not at all very harsh. It's also like it looks a bit like the sun haze, how of things in very bright sun look sort of hazy and not very clear. And I just like the effect that has. I don't know how many mentors I had in here. The mentors in here have turned out a bit smaller in the one I'm making. And I know I said not to upscale it, but I'm gonna upscale it a little bit. I think they're far enough away that I can, a little quality drop will not be that problematic. Okay, I think that looks okay. Actually, I'm not gonna push the scale anymore. I just want one more. I want one more manta ray, but I'm not sure where I can put it. Where do I have them over here? Yeah, I can probably move them around some. I'm gonna grab these two and push them slightly back. And that will leave me room to put another one over here. So I'm gonna duplicate this layer once more. And we're gonna very much not pay attention to the naming that I'm doing here, because at this point even I don't know which layer is which. So I'm just gonna erase this one out, and I know it's destructive, but I'm being destructive for now. Just gonna get rid of his tail over there. There you go. And then move it over here, I think is a good place. I'm gonna move this one slightly more back And this one I did not warp a whole lot. The one I just edited in, I'm not warping it too much because I think its pose is not very similar to the other one. Just gonna give it a slightly more exaggerated flap. Now this one's better. But to break up the positioning a little bit, make it look less repetitive, we can do that. And then just rotate it upward instead. There you go. Actually, I only want to do the moving thing. Let's do this. Yeah, let's just rotate it upwards over there. There you go. I think that looks okay. So I did fiddle with the placements look a bit awkward to me and I'm not too happy with them, but I'm not gonna sit and fiddle with them too much because I'm don't have that much time. And I'm gonna jump to the lighting section because I have to do a lot of lighting fixes here. The lighting directions were from all over the place, the colors were from all over the place, and color balance adjustments can only take you so far. So I'm just gonna select all of these layers and throw them in a group. Now that I have grouped them, I might as well name them. Let's make it erase. And then I'm gonna put in a clipping layer here. Actually, before that, let's just do a final color pass. Let's do a color balance and just try and, oh, that's supposed to be clipped. Yeah, I think this overall pink, red, and yellow should be good. So at this point, I want them to have very strong sunsetish colors. And I feel like that is just working well here. But this is really just personal preference because I mean, there's no right and wrong when you're doing something this wacky. And now I'm gonna choose color dodge for this one and just choose like a pinkish orangish sort of color for the light. And I have this one clipped to the group as a whole because I find it's convenient to do it that way. But you could also clip it individually to the is that one doing anything? You could clip it individually to the each ray has its own lighting layer. But I don't feel the need for that, so I haven't done it. And it looks horrible this zoomed in, but so I'm just following the portions which already have light and I'm just thinking about where the light should be coming from in this scenario and adding in my own light. So this can take some practice of figuring out where the light should be coming from, but just follow your lighting directions and basic light theory and then you generally be able to tell what looks right or wrong. So here on this particular one, it's okay because the light is coming from behind. And so the slight illumination of the back and head is to be expected. So there isn't a whole lot of fix to do here. I'm just exaggerating a bit for the aesthetic. Same for this one. It's coming from the back, so it should just have slightly more highlights along the underside of its wings where they'd be kind of catching the light a bit more. This is just a copy, so it will follow the same lighting. And then this is the worst of the lot because this one's lighting is already so strong that any color dodge just falls off of it like water off of a duck's back. You really cannot tell when I've added any color dodge at all. So for this guy, I added a new layer and without changing his blending mode, I'm just bringing some color over its highlights. Their placement is generally okay. I'm not too worried about it. But with a low opacity, I'm just brushing on some color without changing the blending mode where there should be light, and then I'm just going to cycle through it and find one that adds the light, adds the faint color to his light without it not working as color dodge. I think lighten, yeah, the color mode, the blending mode known as lighten works for this one. I really don't want to add more saturation to its colors. I just want to add a little bit direction, I suppose, to its light. So lighten works fine. Color dodge adds a lot of saturation, and lighten does not. So In fact, I think even screen will do good for this. Let's try between. Yeah, screen works okay as well. I'm actually gonna tone down the color dodge a little bit on these two in the front because it is very strong and I'm not too happy with it. So I'm setting, I think I just made it stronger. Yeah, I'm setting eraser to a low opacity and I'm just gonna brush it over the color dodge layer and just tone it down a little bit. There you go, that looks better. And I'm just gonna add a levels adjustment and clip it to the group as well and just make them all slightly lighter. Actually, the ones at the back are already slightly lighter. I more want to lighten the ones at the front. So I'm gonna mask the adjustment layer to the ones in the front. There you go. Just a slight lightening, just to get rid of the harsh shadows. And I think that is the majority of it we can say is done. Now we just have to do some lighting and exposure fixes. And also the fact that the base is supposed to be water, except there are absolutely no reflections, and thus it looks very little like water. So let's go over those really quick. So I'm going to start with the color balance and shift it slightly pinkish. And I'm going to choose a gradient for and mask it so that it's just to the sun's this edge over here. I just want that to have a slightly more pinkish feel. It's too yellow. In fact, I'm going to make it even more pinkish reddish. Yeah, that's a bit strong actually. It was fine before. There you go. That looks okay. There you go. This is a good, I don't want to make it too strong because the colors are already pretty vibrant on this piece. And now I'm going to add a layer and I'm going to choose a color. I'm actually just going to color pick from here and then make it slightly stronger. And just with a soft brush, bring up the lightness, the color over here and switch it to, let's see. Yeah, I think screen is okay for a part of it, and then I'm going to use a soft eraser and just get rid of some of it. It's too strong. I basically just want to give this entire section, the tree and the Milky Way coming down to it, a bit of glow, but I don't want it to be distractingly strong. So just a gentle glow. In fact, let me just check what blending mode I had that one on.
Mm.
It will be easier than trying again and again until I get it right. Right, so I have one on screen, and then I think I have, yeah, I have it on screen. Yeah, screen is good. Let's use screen. So I have this one on screen as well. So this one is just needs a bit more refining and fine tuning. I want to have it strong down here where it's coming down meet the tree at other places, but I don't want the rest of the tree to like fade away either. There you go. I actually think this is okay. I'm not gonna fiddle with it too much. It looks pretty good. Yeah, maybe just soften it a little bit from here. And then add a little bit. Oh, that looks okay. I'm just gonna lower the opacity a little bit. And then I'm gonna add another one and choose a much more pinkish color. And just bring it over these guys. And this one I'm gonna put on lighten because I don't want to really increase the saturation or anything. I just want to fade it to the back a little bit, and lighten is good for that. It's not like a glow, it's more like just fading them out a little bit. I'm using a brush on a lower opacity because I don't want to make it too strong by mistake and have to go back and erase it again and again. But I think this is okay. slightly lower the opacity and erase this section over here. And we're good, I think. Okay, now that I've done this level of adjustments, now we're going to do the reflection. So I'm going to select all the layers except the main base and duplicate them and then merge them together. Yeah, okay, maybe that was not the greatest idea. I'm not sure why that's happening. I think it is the adjustment, the blending mode layers are messing it up. Let's try again. Shift, duplicate, and let's not merge them, let's just group them instead. I accidentally deselected them. And let's group it. There you go. Okay, so now I'm gonna Control T, flip vertical. Right, something is wrong over here. Let's okay. I'm not sure what's happening over there. Let's do this instead. Control Alt Shift E, and then Control Alt Shift E is a short keyboard shortcut that will take everything that's visible and copy it together and paste it as a new layer. Basically, it is a much easier way of doing what I was trying to do. And since Photoshop is doing it itself, it does not have issues with blending modes and all of that. I have noticed that the blending modes tend to mess up if you try and copy them or put them in a group together with different blending modes. I'm not sure if that's a Photoshop glitch or something I'm doing wrong, but anyway, since Control Alt Shift E does the job, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Then I'm deleting the part that is in the water from this pasted layer, and then we're going to go Control T and flip horizontal. Sorry, flip vertical. Right, and then shift drag it down and line it up with the tree. And then I'm just gonna nudge it up and down until the reflection lines up nicely. So we do have a reflection now, but I'd not like how strong and even and unrealistic it is. So we're gonna go to filter and blur, motion blur. Choose the angle 0 and the distance 40 pixels is fine for this one. Okay, and then I'm gonna throw in a mask on this. And using a very small gradient, I'm just gonna mask it from the edges. I want a little bit of the lake to show through because our lighting is not such that we should have a crystal clear reflection. I just want a soft, gradual reflection coming in. So I really want the reflection to be subtle. I don't want it to be, so here's the without the reflection and with the reflection. So it ties it all together nicely. We've got the tree reflected, which looks like it's floating otherwise. And you can see the manta rays in the reflection. The clouds are faintly coming in. And it basically just ties everything up together without it being very how can I say, extreme, obvious, whatever. For final color fixes, I'm just gonna throw in a levels real quick and darken it as a whole. I just wanna darken it a little bit, not a whole lot. Yeah, and I'm gonna fill it with black and just bring in a little bit of darkness along the water here and up this side a little more. Just along the edges of the frame, like a faint vignette, but very faint, not very defined in its shape. Yeah, I think that works fine. And let's just do a last color balance. Just tie the colors all up together nicely. Yeah, I like the slightly more warm colors. I'm gonna throw in a curves as well and just see if a little more contrast is suiting this or no. I think the left side could do with a little more contrast, but the right side has enough. So I will mask it, but before that, let's bump it up a little more. Not that much. Yeah, I like how the contrast is looking on the right, but not the left. Sorry, on the left, but not the right. So mask it off the right side. And I think we're good to go. I like how the results are, the lighting is good, and that is, I think we can tear this piece off. One last thing I will do is I'll Control Alt Shift E one more time. Go into Filter, Sharpen, and do an unsharp mask. Okay. No, not that. There's one way of sharpening it. Yeah, I want to just reduce the sharpen a little bit. I don't want it to be. Yeah, there you go. It just slightly sharpens everything up a little bit, gets rid of blurry edges and all that, which we could have left over from our selection. It's very subtle, but I think it works. And I think we can call this piece done. Do you have any questions or suggestions or anything?
I think it looks beautiful, Aisha.
So did everything I say make sense? Like, do you understand what we were doing with this entire piece, or does it look like I was just going on and doing my own thing?
I think that I need to practice it with it in my hands, because of course
Okay.
it looks very easy when you do it, but I have to exactly figure out where everything is, to be
Okay.
honest.
Would you be interested if I sent a link with all of these assets so you guys can try with the same assets where you've already seen how it went on these ones? Or are you comfortable with doing with your own pictures?
I would really love to get the assets. I don't think I'll have time for it this weekend, but I would definitely get to it at some point.
Okay, I will make a link and post it on the Facebook group. So if anybody needs, none of the assets are mine anyway. They're all from free stock photos. So I'll post a link on the Facebook group with the same time I post the recording for this one up. So you can download them from there. And if anybody else also wants the assets, then they're welcome to have them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for attending. Thank you for being the sole attendant for part 2.
It's how it goes when it's weekend. People are
Yeah,
off.
I wasn't sure if people would attend for the weekend, but everyone who came last week said they would. But oh well, it's a weekend. Everyone gets busy with their own stuff. So thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much for taking your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.